30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in.
Okay, let's try now.
Yeah, there we go.
Thumbs up. You can
There we
hear
go.
me.
Yes. I can hear you.
Problem is I can't hear him.
Oh, that's great.
We're off to a rip-roaring start here, but we will get this taken care of here in just a moment. Kelly, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. This is good.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so what was draft day like for you?
It was a lot of excitement, and then once you get going in the rounds, you know, it's you really take a look at yourself and what you're going to do, because I'd always played football. I thought I was going to get drafted in the 4th round by the Philadelphia Eagles. Years later, I heard that Ray Rhodes actually fired the scout that recommended the guy that they took, because he didn't even make it through training camp. So I can remember being on the back porch of my house with my parents and, my soon-to-be wife. And that was kind of a deal where you didn't know what you were going to, and then I started getting calls. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I'd always done football, always been around sports. And then I started getting some calls from some teams. And I was, that kind of energized me again and got me upbeat a little bit.
It's a tough process for a player if you're not certain of where you're going and when you're going.
It truly is. And I say this a lot of times because people always talk about it, but it's hard for people to believe, but when you get drafted in the 6 or 7 rounds, sometimes it's better not to get drafted in those situations. And I know that's hard to imagine, but when you're drafted that late, you could go into a situation that's just we heard Tony Basilio talk about it the other day, where it's not the right place, it's not the right timing for you. And if you're not drafted, obviously everybody wanted to get drafted. And I wanted to get drafted, but I could actually, I think I had 3 teams where I could choose. And I looked at the situations in their quarterback room, and I thought that I picked the best place for me. And that was when I went to Tampa Bay with Sam White and his old coaching staff. And, kind of the rest is history. I didn't make it there, but it ended up helping me in the long run.
Kelly, I remember how awkward it was. Gosh, this has now been 15, 16, 18 years ago with Aaron Rodgers, where everybody thinks, okay, he's going to get drafted here, and he keeps falling and rumors start, what's going on with him? Why are they backing away? I would not want cameras if I'm the young guy facing that. I don't want the cameras around me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Because when you're in that situation and you're not really sure, it's probably better not to go to wherever the draft is, because you're going to have those cameras right in your face. I can remember when Baker Mayfield got drafted, number 1, he didn't go to the draft. And, I can imagine that, because it was, I can remember seeing that. It was kind of painful for Aaron Rodgers, because he thought he was going to go earlier in the draft. And I think he got, what was like the 16th pick or something like that. Was that it?
Oh, it was even deeper than that. It was in the 20s.
Yeah. So it's you're seeing something where, and there's always things come up on draft day where this team heard this and they've told it to other teams, and, who knows? I think I remember a little bit of the situation, but I wouldn't want it, George. I'm like you. If you were expected to go like first or second or third, and then you start dropping, I wouldn't want those cameras in my face, so I would probably stay home as well.
So that scenario may come up. We're going to play a little bit of a game later where Kelly has given us what he believes is going to happen if Houston does not make a trade at number 2, and then a different set of draft picks, 1 through 11, if Houston does make a trade. Kelly, 3 of these quarterbacks, it seems to me, Will Levis, Richardson, Hendon Hooker, could all end up in that same setting tonight. If things go weird, they could all really have a drop.
I was thinking about that before we got on the air here, George, because I gave you all that stuff last night with my top 11, but I'm looking at stuff this morning and how everything is trending, man. I'm not sure that Will Levis is not going to be the number 2 quarterback taken. I'm not sure. I don't think, for whatever reason, CJ Stroud has fallen. Now that might be a smokescreen for everybody. I don't know, and it could be, because I think the kid's a really good football player. But I have heard some things where I don't think he scored as highly on his aptitude test as some of the teams would have liked. So that might be a red flag for some of these teams. And I put him as the second quarterback going, but I'm right now, I think Will Levis, I don't know how he fell so far 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now everybody's talking about him. And I know that Mel Kiper's been on him, and I think that's kind of the Mel Kiper effect. But I'm not so sure that he's gotten his point across, and I think he may be the number 2 quarterback pick tonight.
What does that tell you? I mean, if Kiper has influence, and I don't know why he would, and if I'm a team, there's no way in hell that I am admitting anything close to publicly, oh, yeah, we listen to what Mel Kiper's saying.
I was with a team that I felt like they drafted sometimes on sensationalism and what people thought and what they thought, instead of getting in their little war room, like everybody calls it, being the Pittsburgh Steelers, not worrying about what people say. We're going to draft the guy that best fits this team. I was with a team that I felt like that they listened to the prognosticators and they went on what the public wanted instead of what would help the team better. And that kind of really irritated me.
What do you think it's like, Kelly? I know we've kind of started all this a little earlier than normal, and we'll get to an update here in a few minutes. But what do you think it's like for a Rand Carthon who's never been able to say before, this is my draft?
I'm sure he's a little anxious. that's just being in the business. I mean, it's a very high pressured business, and you've got to make the right calls. It's tough to make a bunch of mistakes in the draft. You just cannot do that if you're trying to build a team and you're trying to get what the head coach wants. And you do all your due diligence with, interviewing all these guys, interviewing coaches, interviewing, people that's been around the guys. You try to do your due diligence, but I'm sure he's a little anxious because this is his first draft being the head guy. And I think that he's obviously got some consensus with the people that he's hired. But, he does not want to make a mistake. And there are going to be mistakes made tonight. There's going to be there's going to be some busts in the first round. That's just the way it is. You do everything that you can to make the right decision. But when it boils down to it and you start giving these guys out money, if you don't have a good charactered kid, I've said this to many people. If you pay a guy a bunch of money and he decides that nobody's going to be able to coach him, nobody's going to tell him anything, what can you say? What can you do? I mean, you're already giving him a bunch of money. I've been around guys like that who just kind of gave up. And, that's why I think that things sometimes need to change. I mean, the money's getting so outrageous now. But I'm sure he's a little anxious tonight, and I'm sure he's wanting a good draft for his first go round with this.
Kelly, I think we've all seen Costner's movie Draft Day.
Yeah.
How accurate a depiction do you think that is?
Well, I said it yesterday. Like I could not stand Any Given Sunday. I think that it was, it's. I thought it was a pretty good movie. I don't know if that's exactly how a lot of it goes, but it was pretty right on because those guys are trying to make deals up until the last minute. They're, hey, they might be able to trade and get a bunch of draft picks. They might not need somebody that's, that they've gotten to their pick and their guy has not been taken, or their guy might have been taken, and they just say, hey, we're going to move back and we're going to get some more picks. So it was a pretty good depiction. It's still Hollywood, which, they're going to put their own little slice on things. But, other than that, it was a lot better than Any Given Sunday. I promise you that.
Well, I've seen Any Given Sunday. A test pattern would have been. Billy, what's the name of the quarterback in Draft Day? The one under the microscope.
I had it on the tip of my tongue. I was thinking about him. You asked me this a few months ago, and I looked up the answer, but I forgot.
Kelly, do you know it?
God, I can see the guy's face right now.
Bo
no, I do not.
Callahan.
Yes.
Selfish Bo Callahan.
Bo Callahan.
And, of course, they learned that none of his teammates went to his birthday party. Remember?
Well, they used to have, on some of those deals where they would give you, like, would you rather eat an apple or an orange? And the whole premise is, are you lazy that you don't want to peel the orange so you eat the apple? I mean, it's just like some of the crazy stuff like that. I'm like, it goes back to the combine. Like, for what? For who?
They can have a beer together.
Exactly.
I'm waiting on you to call the draft a joke, Kelly, after yesterday's
No, the
combine.
draft's not a joke. I mean, it's not a joke. I mean, and it's become so sensationalized. I was going to watch something where somebody was, how has it become as big as it's become? Because there's going to be all over the country tonight. There's going to be people, draft parties in all these major cities that have football teams. It's become a real thing. Other than the Super Bowl, it's probably the biggest deal.
Okay, you want a theory?
I'll take it.
It's the letters ESPN. Think about this. Hockey used to get test pattern numbers during the playoffs. They were on something called Sportsnet, and then they were on Mizlou. All of a sudden, they're on ESPN, and there was a game, I think it was it Dallas and Minnesota, Billy, that had the single highest NHL playoff numbers ever?
Yep, ever.
I mean, think about that. That's opening round on ESPN as opposed to, a Stanley Cup final to decide a champion.
If it's on
ESPN,
they'll watch.
let's do this. I know we've gone a long ways already. We'll do the update after the break, and then we'll get to Kelly's kind of his mock draft of if Houston trades, if they stay at number 2. First, let's talk a little Action 24/7 sport. Are you betting on either the NBA or the NHL playoffs? Well, today at Action 24/7, use the promo code GEORGE and get a 300% deposit match up to $20 on your first deposit. Action 24/7 is Tennessee's only locally owned and operated sports book. That's right. If you have questions, these are good folks who can help you. They are your neighbors located right here in the state of Tennessee. So download the app or visit action247.com to start all that winning. I have changed the words at the end that were saying, please bet responsibly, but I have changed it. Please bet on the road team in the NHL playoffs. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Links. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
We are back at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. Kelly, we want you out of here at 3 o'clock. You take care of your voice.
Got you.
Okay. So, Billy, normally by now, something would have broken. Somebody would be trading. The dominoes would have started, but apparently no go so far.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's mostly been pretty quiet. Other than early this morning, Diana Rossini said, my sense tells me the Titans are looking for a quarterback, and they love C.J. Stroud. Stroud is now reportedly the favorite to go 3rd overall tonight at the draft. The question is, do the Titans attempt to trade up and get him, or do they stay at 11 and see who's available? Mel Kiper has the Titans trading pick number 11, 41, a 2024 first-rounder, and the 2025 top pick to get that 3rd overall pick. So does McShay. But Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network has the Titans taking Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers. And according to sources, the Titans told Flowers last night, get used to Nashville. So obviously there's a lot circulating right now, but the big buzz is the Titans have interest in C.J. Stroud.
You know, I had something very similar happen one time academically. Somebody said to me, "Get used to summer school." What? They were right.
Absolutely. I don't know. I mean, do we think the Texans are going to take a quarterback, or are they going to take the Tyree Wilson kid or the Will Anderson kid? I mean, they need a pass rusher as well. So, what do we think they're? Because I think they're going to take a pass rush guy. So then, if you do that, then CJ Stroud falls one back further, and then that could fall into place. You're absolutely right. I just don't know though, George. Like you said, they've got so many holes to fill. And I think CJ Stroud is a franchise quarterback. I really do. But like, do you give up that much for all the other? I mean, it seems to me like if you do that, then next year you're not going to be really competitive.
No. Kelly, don't let the cat out of the bag yet on where you think it's headed. We'll talk through it here in a couple of minutes. Billy, what have you got there?
Last night, NBA playoffs. The Knicks win the series over Cleveland. That was a dominant effort last night. 4-1 series win. So they move on to play Miami in a really interesting series. Jimmy Butler last night was phenomenal. 42 points. He beat the Bucks in overtime. And after the game, Giannis Antetokounmpo was asked by the media, his thoughts about losing to the 8 seed. He said, in sports, there's no such thing as a failure. So, and he brought up Michael Jordan and how he didn't win the finals every year. Are you calling that a failure? So Giannis had some interesting thoughts. Grizzlies beat the Lakers. Desmond Bane with a good night.
Let me say this, okay? The using Jordan had 1 year where it really didn't work out. Orlando, the year that he came back out of retirement, Horace Grant, his former teammate in the Orlando Magic, knocked him out in the opening round. What went on in Milwaukee, it doesn't matter what Giannis says. That's a failure.
Yeah,
Pure and simple, that's a failure.
Yeah, that's a big disappointment, George.
And to be honest, the big surprise in that, Budenholzer has always been one of the better coaches in that league. I thought he got badly outcoached. I mean, Jimmy Butler was the only thing Miami had to offer. I would have guarded him with half of the free world and forced him to give up the ball.
I didn't realize
he scored 100 points in 2 games.
Yeah, I didn't realize this, George. Did you know that the Miami Heat have 11 undrafted guys on their team? Did you know that?
I had heard it in a telecast last week. Going in, I had no idea. It's a pretty amazing story.
Amazing.
But, I mean, Giannis, and I know he gave a really detailed answer, but that's a failure. That's a big failure.
I agree, and I think that if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you have to get him some guys if he stays there. I mean, is he up for contract, or I mean, is
one more year on it?
One more year, but obviously he can't do it by himself. He's got to have some more people.
What else, Billy?
Last night, Grizzlies beat the Lakers. In a game they had to have. They've got to win 2 more now to win that series. Game 6 tomorrow night in L.A. at Crypto.com Arena. Were you surprised by the Grizzlies last night? I know you picked them.
I was surprised at how easy it was. I thought it would be a little harder. I thought the Lakers early on just sort of said, we'll get back to L.A. and we'll take care of it there.
Warriors beat the Kings. Yeah. Steph Curry, 31 points. He's starting to really feel himself. He's getting into a groove. Warriors lead that series 3-2. They've got the advantage. But they're going
got a big advantage.
And that's in Oakland, right? Next game's in Oakland tomorrow night. So all of a sudden they have taken control of that series. Only one game tonight. Good luck to these ratings. Boston and Atlanta.
Go Hawks.
7:30. I still can't get over the Hawks that just battling in this series.
I never saw that coming.
Neither did I. Meanwhile, in the NHL last night, Florida knocks off Boston in overtime, 4-3. Matthew Tkachuk with the game-winning goal. Boston leads it 3-2. Seattle beats Colorado 3-2. Seattle leads that one 3-2. Tonight, Tampa Bay and Toronto. Toronto can win that series tonight. New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils tonight in New Jersey. Series tied at 2. And then Winnipeg and Vegas. Vegas with a chance to win that series tonight.
team continues to dominate in the NHL, and I don't get it.
Jack Eichel.
I just don't.
They've got some good young pieces, but I'm surprised how much of a dog Winnipeg's been in that series. George, college football news. Tyler Buchner, we mentioned his transfer. What was it, yesterday? I think we talked about that news. He's headed to Alabama.
Yeah, I think he's been headed to Alabama for a while. I think the train picked him up in South Bend about a week ago.
Yeah, with old Tyler Reese, or Tommy Reese, not Tyler Reese. But, George, I want to mention this. Notre Dame's outgoing transfer quarterbacks during the past decade. Buchner is going to try to do something that all these other quarterbacks didn't do after they transferred from Notre Dame. Gunnar Kiel from Cincinnati, Everett Golson to Florida State, Malik Zaire to Florida, Brandon Wimbush to UCF, Phil Jerkovich to BC, and then Pitt, Drew Pine to Arizona State, and now Buchner to Alabama. None of those quarterbacks really did anything after transferring from Notre Dame. We'll see if Buchner can do that down in Alabama.
Gunnar, by the way, lives here.
Gunnar Kiel?
Yes.
Isn't his dad is he a Nashville guy? Or?
Well, first of all, the whole family is a bunch of quarterbacks.
Drew
Gunnar,
Kiel. Is that his
Drew
dad?
was at Illinois State. Dusty was at Indiana. Their uncle, Blair Kiel, was a Notre Dame quarterback in the early 80s. Oh, it's a QB family. By the way, if the Keels are listening, give me $1. I gave you a plug.
Sounds like.
Hey, let me ask y'all this: what does it mean if Buchner's going to? Does that mean that Nick Saban is probably not sold on the two kids that battled it out this spring?
I think Buchner has a great shot at winning that job because I haven't seen much from the other guys they've got. The young kid, they got a couple of really young guys. Buchner is a guy that he's a good runner, but I don't know about his throwing ability.
It's either that or Tommy Reese has sold Saban on the look. You know, this guy could contribute if one of these two doesn't do it.
Okay.
You know, this guy has some ability, has played in meaningful games. It's got to be one or the other.
And maybe it's just competition too. I mean, just you got three guys, whoever wins it, wins it. But a part of me doesn't think Saban thinks like that. I mean, Buchner might be the guy, but who knows? That's a good question.
Well, the other two are not, sending him flowers.
What are their names? I can't think of their names. Ty Simpson
and Jalen Milroe.
Jalen Milroe.
Ty Simpson's dad, of course, is the head coach at UT Martin.
Yeah.
So Ty's got some insurance if it doesn't work out at Alabama.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one way to look at it.
But it'll be interesting. I think Ty, I've heard good things about him down there, so we'll see if he's the guy.
Is your update done?
That's it, George.
Okay. So let's get back to the draft. Kelly, let's start with Houston making no trade at number 2. No trade. Let's put that up there. Because what you're telling me with what you listed last night is that DeMeco Ryans in Houston is either not that impressed with the quarterbacks or he's decided he's going to win and lose on defense.
Well, I think that from everything that I gathered is they wanted Bryce Young. And, when Carolina came up to the first overall pick, seems like Bryce Young is going to Carolina. So, with DeMeco Ryans being that guy, it seems like that he may draft his defensive guy. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. And then, you still got some quarterbacks out there now. If all the quarterbacks go in the top 4, then and somebody trades with Arizona, because Arizona's obviously not going to do that. Seattle could take they could take Anthony Richardson. So I don't know what's going on. And all these mock drafts, I told you when we text, these mock drafts are about as dumb as the deadgum combine to me, because everybody thinks they know. And I'm sure the Mel Kipers and the Todd McShays and the Bucky Brooks and all these guys, I'm sure they have some inside info with some guy, but they really don't know what's going on. So I just think that if they did love Bryce Young and they can't get Bryce Young, I think they may, they could either trade that. Well, they won't trade that pick. They'll take Will Anderson or the Tyree Wilson kid from Texas Tech. And I think they'll do that. And then if they want to get a quarterback later on, say they had to settle for Hendon Hooker. Are you really settling? I mean, I think he's the third best quarterback in this draft, but obviously these guys are experts. They know more than me, but as you can see, my top 11, I'm not quarterback heavy as all these other people are.
Okay, would we admit that if Houston doesn't take a quarterback, all of a sudden the cameras are going to be all over Arizona and Indy?
Yep.
Because there's some people out there, and the Titans might be one of them, saying, wait a minute, there's something to be had here. Kelly, I'd like to be a fly on the wall to see what goes on the bat phone.
Yeah, because I think Indianapolis and the Titans will probably be in contact with the Arizona Cardinals. That's for sure, because they're looking for, and I guess the Titans are looking for a quarterback, obviously, of the future. I mean, and who knows? Ryan Tannehill could get traded tonight. You never know. This is a crazy game. I can remember when that stuff happened. To me, I got traded to Philly and then traded back to Minnesota. It's a crazy ordeal, and nobody really knows. But if they do that at number 2 and they take a defensive guy, then Arizona is sitting in a pretty good spot, because they can flip spots with Indianapolis, but I wouldn't think they would just flip spots. I would think they would get more from Indianapolis. And then, if you're the Tennessee Titans and you're trying to get up there, I mean, you're going to have to give up a lot to get that position. So I just, we talked about it in the opener, but I think that's too hefty. That's too hefty of a price to get to number 3 when there's other guys that you can take. And, but CJ Stroud is, I think, a franchise quarterback, and time will tell. Remains to be seen. If that's what the Titans think that will get them over the edge, then I mean, it's just like what Mike Ditka did trying to get Ricky Williams when he was in New Orleans Saints. He had a really easy draft day. He gave up everything to get Ricky Williams. So if they're thinking that way, then who knows what they're going to do.
George, we got a comment in here. Kelly just mentioned C.J. Stroud from TN Golfer on Twitter. He says, for goodness sakes, don't draft Stroud. He looks like a high schooler. He's got the worst S2 score. Does that really matter to you, Kelly, that S2 score?
That's why he's falling, guys. I mean, that's what they hold those things to high standards. And when you take those tests like they give you and you don't score well on them, that's a red flag for them. So that's why I think that Will Levis is moving up. Now, I don't know how he did on all those tests either. I mean, we're not privy to that information, but that is why. I heard that, last week. I heard that CJ Stroud had done really bad on that. And, people are really, worried about that when it comes to organizations. So I think the guy can play. His football IQ seems pretty good, but I wasn't at Ohio State. I wasn't in the quarterback room. So I don't know. I haven't obviously done my due diligence as all these NFL teams, but that is by far why he is sliding down the board.
Kelly, what kind of stuff is being asked? What are the letters in that thing, Billy? SUV?
S2 cognition. That's
okay.
That's what it's called.
I mean, is that basically a quarterback's SAT kind of deal? What is that, Kelly?
It's a modern version of the Wonderlic test, pretty much.
Right. But I mean, is this important stuff, or is this, if you don't eat an apple, are you then going to look at a banana?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to note that this is not just a quarterback test. It's a test for all positions. Brandon Carthon mentioned that in his press conference earlier this week. It's just not for quarterbacks. Each position has a specific test that they can be graded on to a certain percentile.
So, Kelly, how important is that stuff? Or are you going to tell me, listen, I have been around some real dodos who were great football players and bombed that test?
I remember going to the combine and they set everybody down. And like David said, everybody has to take that test. So it's not just for the quarterbacks, it's everybody. To me, I just told you one of the questions, and that was the only question I could remember. Now, I'm sure it's totally changed from the times. I'm sure they've added many questions since I've been, out of it. That was, 30, almost 30 years ago. So, I don't know, George. Obviously, for a lot of organizations, it's really important. I would say it varies from organization. I would say some people, rate it really highly, and then others are like, well, he made a bad grade, but like if you look at his football IQ, I mean, he can play football. So I don't know what teams do, but obviously with CJ Stroud falling down the board, which he hadn't fallen for me, but with him falling down the board, with what I'm heard, I mean, some people take that really serious, and you got to have a good score as a quarterback.
Okay, Kelly, let's do this. You get about 3 minutes to give your voice a little rest, and then we will go with Houston making a trade at number 2, and then see how you project it if indeed the Texans make a trade. So stick around. We're coming back, NFL Draft Day from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to AlacoFineWoodFloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Well, I think most of us on this NFL draft day believe a couple of things. We all seem to believe now that Carolina is going Bryce Young, and that seems like a foregone conclusion, although I guess stranger things have happened. What we don't know centers around the second pick, which is the Houston Texans. I personally believe, unless they are unbelievably sold on Davis Mills, they got to take a quarterback. Apparently, nobody agrees with me on this. And so we put Kelly to the test a little bit and said, okay, let's say Houston trades down. What does Kelly's board look like if that happens? Okay, let's sort of reveal this. So he has Indy moving up to take CJ Stroud. Kelly, are you waffling at all that maybe it's to get Will Levis?
Well, everything I'm hearing, George, seriously, this morning when I woke up and I was looking at stuff, everybody, I'm not sure that Will Levis is not going to be the number 2 quarterback taken now. I don't know what the teams are thinking, but just like our conversation was with CJ Stroud and what he did on that test, he's dropping, and it seems like Will Levis is coming up. So I don't know. Maybe the Texans, maybe the Texans at number 2 take Will Levis. Who knows? I don't know that. I just think that if you're them, I think you can get both of the. You can get you can have your cake and eat it too, because he's a defensive guy. You can take the Tyree Wilson kid or the Will Anderson kid as a defensive coach, and then you can get somebody. Maybe you make a trade later on. But I think you can get a quarterback with some good value. Obviously, they're not sold on Davis Mills. I wouldn't be sold on him. I hadn't seen enough of him, but in this league, you got to win games, and of course, he's got a bad team around him right now. DeMeco Ryans has stepped into something in Houston. The Texans have not been, they're competitive every now and then, but not much, so. I'm sure obviously he wants to change that environment around there, but you have to have a quarterback. I'm kind of like you. I think they need to draft a quarterback, but him being a defensive coach, and maybe this is one situation too, George, is maybe they take a defensive guy at number 2, and then with him being from San Francisco, maybe they make a run at Trey Lance if you like Trey Lance. I mean, that's something to think about. So I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting to see just how this plays out, because the consensus is Carolina is going to take Bryce Young, but then what's going to happen at number 2? And I said that Indianapolis, moved up to take CJ Stroud. Maybe Indianapolis moves up to take Will Levis. I don't know. Maybe that's what the Titans are thinking.
Try this one on you.
Maybe the Titans are thinking Will Levis.
Let's say that Indy does move up, and whether they take Will Levis or CJ Stroud, they take a quarterback. That's why they'd be moving up. If you're Arizona, do you already have deals in place where, because you only have 10 minutes to do this, where you already know exactly what the parameters are with the Titans, you already know what they are with other teams? Have teams agreed on things provisionally based on Houston moving down?
I'm sure teams have looked at the situations, and I'm sure that they've got all those situations on a board. And then if this team does this, then we need to do that. If this team does this and they trade this, then we need to do this. So I'm sure that they've talked to people. I mean, GMs and people around the league talk all the time. They're always on the phone. So yeah, I'm sure that I don't know that a deal's in place, but I'm sure that they've talked to some teams that are in play, just like on draft day. And then on draft day, things actually, they come to fruition. So I'm sure they put some feelers out there. I'm sure Arizona's put some feelers out there, because if you're Arizona, I mean, you can drop back a little bit and get your same guy, So, that's the intriguing part about all this. Can you move back? And like I've said over and over again, GMs want more draft picks. And that's why I think it's just – I don't think it's wise. Of course, this is me talking. I don't think it's wise for the Titans to do that. If you do that, you keep talking about Swiss cheese. I kind of agree with you with all the holes that they've got to fill. They lost 3 offensive linemen last year. I know they've done some things in free agency to get some offensive linemen there, but defensively, I mean, they've got things to do on the defense side of the ball. I just think it's too much to give up. But if you think that guy is going to be there for a long time, that's a big risk with a college kid.
Yeah.
Did really good in college, but you're not sure how he's going to handle the NFL and all the pressures, because it's a huge pressure being a National Football League quarterback. And when all the lights are on you and all the cameras and all the microphones are on you, it's a tough situation, and you're taking a big gamble if you're the Tennessee Titans.
Kelly, I'm going to ask what sounds like a smart aleck question, except for a change. My intent is not that. Normally it would be, especially if I can get at you. But you have Seattle changing because of a Houston trade that doesn't affect Seattle's positioning. In your no trade scenario, you had them taking Jalen Carter. In this deal with Houston making a trade, you've got them going Christian Gonzalez. Is that just simply an oversight, or is there a reason for a change?
I just changed it because they need defensive guys. So I just put, you could change it. Like Detroit needs defensive guys too. So, Jalen Carter is obviously, they've talked about him being the best player in the draft. They're talking about him taking off plays, but every guy takes off plays being 300 pounds. They need a run stopper in Seattle, plus they need a cornerback too. So that's just kind of the reason I did that, just to kind of change things up, just playing this little game of mock draft.
Kelly, I got a question for you, and just play devil's advocate with me. I'm going to switch it back to the slide without a Houston trade where they'll stick it to and take Will Anderson. Now, Houston has the 12th overall pick in the first round as well. They have 12 draft picks this year, the most out of any team. Could you see a scenario where they trade back up to 3 with Arizona and take a quarterback, Arizona slide back to 12, and they give them some of those 12 draft picks that they have this year and some of their draft picks next year?
Absolutely. When you've got leverage like that, absolutely, you can see that, because that's a great spot to be in right there if you're the Texans, because they can get their defensive guy, and then they can come in and they can trade up for, because Arizona's obviously, they need a defensive guy, and they need somebody that can rush the passer, but you can drop down a little bit and get that. And you might not get the guy that you want, but you can get, if you're the Houston Texans, that you're at 12, you go up to number 3, then you've got the 2nd and 3rd pick. You can get everything you want in those first 3 picks, which is a huge leverage a deal for the Texans. So I would not be surprised of that at all, David. I really wouldn't.
Kelly, it looks to me like the NFL people couldn't have cared less how Jalen Carter behaved. They see a freakish athlete at a position that is so important. It doesn't look like it changed anything.
The NFL, like George, I've told you this, professional sports does not care. I mean, if you can help them win games, they're going to draft you. They're going to get you. Until you do something that is just really bad, where the NFL steps in and says, "Hey, you can't." Like a Ray Rice situation with the Baltimore Ravens. When he does something like that, he kind of got blackballed. But Jalen Carter, it doesn't matter. Everybody's saying he may be the best player in this whole entire draft. And he could literally go out there and play 5 plays a game, but somebody's going to take him, because this is what NFL coaches think, George. His college coaches didn't know how to motivate him. We can motivate him. Or if a quarterback didn't play great in college, well, these NFL guys say they didn't know how to coach him. I can coach him. Just give me an opportunity to coach him. Let's draft him. I think he's what we need. That's what they think. And a lot of times that's hard, George. When you got a guy that does that consistently over and over, I don't care what kind of coach you are, you're seeing it on tape. Now, every defensive lineman that is Jalen Carter's size is going to take a couple of plays off. That's being realistic. I mean, that's just human nature to do that. I mean, he's a big guy, And if they have to stay out there with all these spread offenses and those guys going, he's going to get tired. That's just part of it. And he's going to have to come off the field a little bit. But the guy can play, and the NFL does not care.
You mentioned Ray Rice, Kelly. If it's not a public relations disaster, the NFL's like you said, they don't care.
Because right. They can help you win games, Billy. I mean, if you pay a guy, he can help you win games. That's what this whole deal is about. It's about winning games. And, they can talk about all this character garbage. Now, somebody might have just really bad character, and they might be a turd. Yeah, I can understand somebody not but like if you got some questions, but you're like really good, like a Jalen Carter, like a Will Anderson. Like Will Anderson's a really good kid, but like, you got somebody like that. The NFL does not care if you can help them win.
It's the NCL, Billy, the No Care League.
Right.
So, okay, let's sort of end this. And obviously, we're going to let Kelly out of here right at 3:00 because he's having some voice issues. And if anybody should be sensitive about that, it's me. Okay, so you're in agreement with everybody. Bryce Young will be the first quarterback, the first pick in the draft to Carolina, right?
I am, but just think if somebody else likes somebody over, Mel Kiper said that Will Levis is his best quarterback. I mean, like, so just think about if that kind of happened. If everybody's saying that Carolina is drafting Bryce Young, well, you're not in the room with Frank Reich and his guys. So just think if they've just been putting a smoke screen out there, what if that happens? I agree. I think Bryce Young is going to be the number one overall pick. I get that because if it's me, I'm taking Bryce Young. I don't give a flip how big he is. The guy can play. All you got to do is cut on the tape. He's calm in crazy situations. He's a good leader. He moves his feet. He's always looking downfield. He never takes off running if he doesn't have to. He just makes plays. That guy is a phenomenal quarterback. And he's one of the guys that, hopefully he can stay healthy because he is smaller. But, like, he's one of those guys that is a talent that doesn't come along a lot of times, very often. So I would go get him. But the NFL draft is just it's a hodgepodge, and you never know what you're going to get. And that's what makes it so exciting. And that's why everybody's going to tune in tonight.
George, did either you or Kelly see what Max Kellerman said this morning on his radio show?
No.
They were talking about Hendon Hooker, and Max said, if you want a high ceiling and a high floor, seems to me he's the best bet. If I needed a quarterback, I think I'd take Hendon Hooker. So he's taking him over Bryce Young as the top quarterback.
I don't necessarily know about that. I don't know about that. But I will say some of the downfalls to Hendon Hooker is – his age. Everybody's talking about the offense that he played in and then his injury. And it would be good for him to be able to, go behind somebody like a Ryan Tannehill to kind of learn the pro game. I really like Hendon Hooker. I really do. And I think he should be up there. But, I think with his experience, he's played a lot of football. And that's a huge, like when you're looking at Anthony Richardson, he hadn't played a ton of football. Will Levis transferred from Penn State. He started at 2 years at Kentucky, but he was injured some. But you look at Hendon Hooker, and he's played a lot of football. So he's got some experience. He's got some age on him, which that obviously is a downfall to some teams. But I really like Hendon Hooker.
Here's some things we know. If Carolina trades down to the 3 hole, that would be what?
What do you mean?
That would be the Third Reich.
That's about the 300th time.
I know it, but I thought I'd do it one more time. Roll your eyes. Look, you lighten up. I'm trying to help you.
I appreciate it, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but yeah, my throat is messed up.
Okay. This is it, and then we'll let you out of here. So you think Bryce Young's the first quarterback. Give me the order of how you think the quarterbacks are going to be picked tonight. 1 through 5.
I have no idea, George. I mean, I'm if it's me, I'm going. I would go, For me, it's Bryce Young, it's CJ Stroud, it's going to be Will Levis. He's either going to be second or third. Then they're going to take Anthony Richardson, and then Hendon Hooker's going to be the next guy. Now, if it's me, I'm going to go Bryce Young. I'm going to go C.J. Stroud. I'm going to go Hendon Hooker. Then I would go Will Levis. And I'm just – there's too many unknowns for me about Anthony Richardson. He's played 13 games in his college career, and I know he's a freak of nature in the combine. We talked about that extensively yesterday, and that's something that helps a guy like Anthony Richardson with all the things that he can do. But does that parlay into being a National Football League quarterback for a long time? I don't know, but we're about to find out.
Listen, get your throat well. I'm going to call you later. Watson is going to come in a little bit tomorrow. I may want to get you in for one segment, and you can kind of croak and go.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
You know what this means? It means I have to do stat of the day by myself.
I can stay on for stat of the day. Let me stay on for stat of the day.
We'll do that then. We'll go to the break. Then we have.
Thank God you've got Kelly to help you out.
Oh,
first.
my goodness. Might as well do it myself.
Oh, really? Hey, the last couple of days I've hit them, so just relax.
I know.
Although I did say Idaho, and I mean Boise. What are we doing?
That was bad. Yeah, anyway, we'll do stat of the day, and then Danny Evans will join us, and we'll ask him how much different is a baseball draft, because he has certainly participated in a bunch of them. Stick around. From, where are we? The Ford Ice Center in Bellevue. It's NFL Draft Day. Don't forget it. Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
This is my buddy and former Nashville Sounds PA announcer Eric Berner. I always laughed in the old days at Greer Stadium when I would walk in, Eric would immediately play my favorite song, Van Halen's Jump. But then I learned he actually has a real job with Rockcastle Wealth Advisors.
Yeah, George, that's what I do. I help people in the pursuit of making their money live as long as they do. Everybody's situation is different, so I use a customized and individualized, personalized approach to the person I'm working with. Old 401ks, retirement planning, insurance planning, inheritance planning. Those are things that people like to get some more information about.
One of the things I find is people don't even know where to start, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, so I can usually help people with an initial phone call or meeting that is a no charge and no obligation.
And I'll bet you have a phone number and a website.
I do, George. They can call me at 615-235-1058 or rockcastlewealth.com or Eric at rockcastlewealth.com.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general. Baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised. And, of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back in. Time for Kelly's favorite segment of the day. It's time for Stat of the Day, brought to you by John English Antique and Sports Cards. Stat of the Day is brought to you by them. You can find them in Shelbyville at 204 East Depot Street. They are open Tuesday through Friday, noon to 5, and on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Also give them a call at 931-492-4304. Once again, 931-492-4304. Stat of the day on NFL Draft Day. And, George, you got some help in the on-deck circle. Danny Evans is here, so I'm going to add him to the stream to help you out.
All right, Danny.
What's up, George?
Well, you before we get to the fun stuff, you got to help us with this one. Watch this question.
Yeah, but, George, I've had a really sleepless night preparing for the NFL draft, so it's
difficult. No, you have.
All right, here we go, guys. Bryce Young is projected to be the first overall pick in tonight's NFL draft in Kansas City. His former college teammate, Will Anderson Jr., has been projected in recent mock drafts to go second overall to Houston. When was the last time college teammates went first and second overall in an NFL draft? It's happened one time. Can you also name the school?
Let me just throw out the first thing that crossed my mind. Could it be USC, Matt Leinart, and help me with the running back?
Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush. Could that be it?
That's a good pick, George.
George, I might have the answer.
Let's hear it. This would be funny if the baseball guy...
1938 DePaul University, Thad Dorn, and Dwayne Peavy.
Go ahead and give him the treatment. I love it. Kelly, do you want to try what I threw out there?
I like that pick, man. I can't even think of. There's only been one college to have 2 kids go 1 and 2, so that would be the most sensible to me. That would be the most sensible pick.
Let's see it. Same to you.
2000 NFL draft, Penn State,
Courtney Brown and Lamar Aaron.
Oh, good Lord. I wouldn't have gotten that in a million years, and nobody else would either.
And Courtney Brown was my teammate.
You see, it was Kelly's teammate.
Yeah, but that doesn't get it. It still didn't get it right.
Yeah, that didn't give me the stat of the day. That's for sure.
Kelly, get your vocal cords well. I'll give you a holler later.
All right, see y'all. See you, Danny.
See you, Kelly. Good talking to you, bud.
So, Danny, are you in Iowa?
No, I'm back in Denver. It's nice to be home for a few days.
Yeah, what are they saying about the Broncos?
I don't know. I really am oblivious when it comes to football, George. It's a sport that I've just, since I would say my mid-20s, I just haven't embraced, haven't watched a game in probably 30 years. So I have absolutely zero awareness. I could name 4 NFL players. It's just amazing. And you know how much of a sports fan I am. It's just a sport I just don't pay attention to.
Okay, but let me try it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Danny, you've participated in a lot of baseball drafts. Is it pretty similar to the NFL? Is it a war room? Is it kind of lay out for us, even though it's in mid-June and it doesn't get nearly the TV stuff? What's the baseball draft like?
Yeah, boy, George, good question. A really good friend of mine operated an NFL franchise. So I sat in on one of his draft meetings, and it was honestly, it was really fabulous to do. And then he sat in ours. The big difference is, all football fans have a viewpoint of the NFL draft, particularly the first couple rounds, because of the awareness. They're all college athletes. The baseball draft is a lot of high school kids. 45% of the draft is high school. So people don't have the slightest idea about them. And since college baseball doesn't have the notoriety or the publicity that college football has, it is really a scouts-oriented draft. I think technology has really provided us a lot of insight into athletes, George. You'd be amazed how much more we know about players in the last 15 years with today's technology, which really eliminates some of the subjectivity.
Danny, in all of your drafts, was there a scenario, we've got this one where Peyton Manning from Tennessee became, an NFL Hall of Famer, and Ryan Leaf, who was right there with him, dead even, became a bust. In baseball, did you ever participate in a draft where it came down to you picking either the future Hall of Famer or a bust?
Luckily, George, I didn't bust any draft picks. I'm really proud of that. I'm extremely proud of that. But I had some cases where I took a pass on some people because of character issues, because of issues that I knew from good scouting, good information flow. And, I'm a big scout proponent, George. I've scouted a great deal. Subsequently, the respect I have, whether they're a football scout, a hockey scout, baseball scout, basketball scout, doesn't matter. It is a seemingly endless array of decisions. And some of the decisions I made to pass on guys were decisions that had nothing to do with talent, but there were issues of personality and people who just weren't going to fit in the room. And I have no regret on any of them. And I tell people all the time in my class that it's amazing how none of those came back to haunt because the scouts got it right. They got the makeup, the personality right. I know football's different. You play once a week. It's more of a mercenary. There's a very short fuse or a short wick to their careers. But in a baseball clubhouse, when you're playing 162 games, makeup, personality, character means everything.
Yeah, because you're in that clubhouse 162 times in the regular season, another 20 to 30 days in the preseason, postseason. Right. I mean, you see them more than they see their family.
Yeah. And George, you know what? It's a failure-based sport. So character becomes even more important. I mean, you're failing more than you're succeeding. So, and I'm not saying a won and loss record, I'm saying performance. It's an individual game within a team sport.
Danny, I'm going to ask a couple of really stupid ones, but you'll know where I'm coming from. Baseball's had several two-sport athletes that have gone on to do great things. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, Brian Jordan. If you're in the baseball room and that guy has football ability, when's the right time to pull the trigger and say, I don't care, they're that good?
George, two of those three guys played for my teams. I signed Bo Jackson after he got hurt, and I acquired Brian Jordan in a trade and stay in touch with him. Those are two of the finest people. And I also tried to sign Deion Sanders. So, you hit a lightning rod on that one because those are three guys I love. George, here's how I look at it. The multi-sport athlete probably has untapped potential. He hasn't completely focused on one sport, and the resulting effect is you have an untapped talent level there. I'm kind of obsessed with those guys. They don't have the great instincts that you'd like, that you and I appreciate, because I know what you like in a baseball player. But what they have is a superiority athletically and a will to win that is, it's just almost insurmountable at times. They just have had the challenge of being on another playing field and having to excel. And I've been obsessed by it my whole career. I do think one of the problems is that a lot of people don't realize how great the athletes are sometimes. I saw Dante Culpepper play baseball. George, I went to a game in Ocala, Florida. He was intentionally walked 5 times. And I'm laughing after the game going, how do I even start a report? He DH, didn't take BP, and walked 5 times. I saw Tom Brady play baseball. He was pretty darn good. I saw Scott Rowland play hoops. I saw Max Fried play hoops. So it's fun to see the multi-sport guy. But George, a little insider tip. It's great when the other sport they play, they're not dominant. You find out what kind of a teammate they are.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to throw one that's really close to home for me. So you get scenarios every once in a while in your sport where this person has great baseball ability, but he's also good enough to sign a scholarship with another school for football or basketball. Dave Winfield comes to mind. My buddy Jeff Francoeur was a great high school football player at Parkview in Atlanta. How do you wade through that mess?
Well, first of all, baseball, you have a much lower percentage of the ability to get hurt. So you have longevity in your career, a phenomenal pension plan, the best union of them all, player benefits that are far superior to any other sport. And George, you get advantages in baseball of playing an elongated career that does not happen in other sports. As a result, the longevity produces a lot more money. It produces a lot more notoriety and post-career opportunities. The other thing that I love about it, George, is that just about everybody has played a little baseball, and people identify with baseball players. They just do because they played Little League, they played high school, some played college. A lot of people have never been on the gridiron, have never gone in to dunk on Giannis, have never played hockey against, one of the great, golfers or played hockey. They can identify how much fun it is. And I just think baseball has a longevity to it and a security to it that does not exist. When that poor kid got hurt last year in the football game, and there was a lot of talk about him being cut, him not having insurance. I mean, that would never happen in Major League Baseball. And I think we get it right between the Players Association and the MLB and in the labor agreement. We really protect our players. We protect our assets.
Danny, I'm asking you a lot of draft stuff because I know that, man, you've got it. You've been there. So tonight, I think you've got a bunch of general managers that are going to have to make a choice, and they really don't have a great feel. They know they need a quarterback. Here are the 5 that are out there. We've got questions about all of them. So what is it like when you tell whoever it is, I'm picking Joe, and deep down, you're not sure?
I've been there. You know, George, first of all, I never told a scouting director who to take because when I was in that spot, I didn't want anybody telling me. I let people make their selections, but I give them background. And George, what we don't know is we don't know the pressure that's coming from above the general manager, from ownership, from the team president. Sometimes it's a name, sometimes it's PR, sometimes it's a quick fix. Sometimes, there's just issues in the background for any team with any franchise. I went and saw the movie Air last night. Great film, by the way, about Nike's pursuit of some Michael Jordan guy. And it was funny.
Terrific.
Yeah,
movie.
I loved it. And I was giggling at some of the comments in the draft room, or not the draft room, the Nike war room, about who they were going after the third pick. And, the Barkley comment came up, and it's ridiculous because he's awesome. And, the problem that comes down to is, and I experienced it many different times, sometimes ownership or a general manager who's in a panic mode, who knows he's in trouble, will make a pick that's more based on the short fix than the long term. I feel sorry for that scouting director because that scouting director is not really taking who in his heart he wants to take. But George, one year I was in a draft room where a general manager came in the second round and he said, "Who do we get in the first round?" Okay. Well, I want to take this guy in the second round. He had never seen the player. None of the scouts in the room had seen that guy real good, but he jammed that guy on us. That guy was absolutely a bust. He couldn't play a lick. And I just think you stay in your lane in the draft, George. If you don't see every player, I don't care what sport it is, stay the heck out of the way. Let your guys make the pick. In football, they know a little bit more about the player. The player's a little more mature. They get more hands-on with the player than they do in baseball. But George, the subjectivity of sports makes the draft just an absolutely fun thing. It really is pretty cool.
Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to ask, and this may be the dumbest question of all of them. Did you ever feel that there was somebody out there who didn't necessarily work harder than everybody else, but when it came to the draft, had a Midas touch that you couldn't explain?
Yeah, I had a couple guys in particular stand out for me, George, and what a superb question. There's some guys some people, I'm not going to say guys, there are some people who are just blessed with that innate skill to make that call. The first that comes to mind is Gary Hughes, who has since passed, an absolute close friend of mine. My God, I loved him. For me, one of the greatest scouts I've ever been around, and just had intuition on players. The other one, George, and it really makes me a little emotional. First person I hired when I was with the Dodgers was George Genovese, who I believe is the greatest scout in baseball history. He just had an extraordinary career. And when George anointed someone or spoke about someone, George, it was like his voice had a different tone, a different octave. I heard him differently, and he nailed guys. I mean, he knew exactly who they were for about a 50-year span. And what a joy to be with those two men, one of them in the draft room and the other just as a trusted friend. And I'm sure football has the same thing where it's just that it's a skill set that, that you can't measure. There's no way to test for it. But when you're in the room, that guy's the guy. I mean, I remember Genovese one time in a draft in the Dodger room, walked over to me, gets in my ear, and he says, "Danny, I got a gut on this kid. Please draft him." Matt Kemp, 6th round. And I'm just like, oh my God, If he's all over this guy, of course I'm taking him. So, George, that's a gift. And we've all, the two of us have been lucky. We've been in situations, we've been around really special people. I mean, you've got that guy at Vanderbilt right now as the head coach. I mean, he's that guy. There are so few of them. And when your life is touched by them, you never forget those moments because they're so much different than everybody else in the room. You feel it, you know it. If you're a good listener, you gain from it.
By the way, your answers were a lot better than my questions. Hey, we'll actually talk some baseball on the field, but I wanted to pick your brain. You realize I could have gone on with this forever.
I do.
And who knows? I may lie and ask one more before it's over. We'll go to the break, and then we'll get on the field with Danny Evans in just a moment, including the signing by the Pirates of Vanderbilt outfielder Brian Reynolds. But first, are you betting on the NBA playoffs, or for that matter, the NHL playoffs? Today at Action 24/7, use the promo code George and get a 300% deposit match up to $20 on your first deposit. Action 24/7 is Tennessee's only locally owned and operated sports book. That's right. If you have questions, these are good folks. They can help you, and they are your neighbors located right here in Tennessee. So download the app or visit action247.com to start that winning. And yes, I've changed the end of it. Instead of please bet responsibly, please take the road team in the NHL playoffs. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Links. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Big crowd in here today. Okay, you notice what we're doing. We're moving a camera so you can see how many people are in here. Danny, they've got what is called the World Selects, big tournament in here, and they've got teams from Finland, Switzerland, Sweden, Kazakhstan. Is that how you say it? Is that right? Yeah, it is Kazakhstan. Anyway, Danny, you wouldn't believe the level of hockey that these kids are playing. My God, it's shocking.
Well, it's a worldwide sport, George, and I'm kind of obsessed by it. I love it. So I watched the Kraken last night. I was trying to watch the Kraken Avalanche game and the Sacramento Golden State game at the same time, and wow, was that fun!
So was I, by the way. Great sports night.
Yeah.
Danny, the Pirates have gotten off to a start that virtually nobody saw coming. If they had been the normal Pirates, would they have signed Brian Reynolds to this deal that they just inked with him?
Now, George, I'm a little sentimental about this because a couple people there are huge decision makers that I have massive respect for, have worked with, have mentored, loved. Their GM, Ben Sherrington, is just a great guy. We worked together in Toronto, and I just think that they have superlative people. They just have great staff. There's a change in the culture there, so I'm thrilled for them. Trey Rose is one of their big decision makers. He's an alum of my class, my online class, George. The answer is no. First of all, they would have been impulsive and they'd have moved him. I give Reynolds credit. And what's really quirky, George, is Reynolds' uncle lives about 3 blocks from me here in Denver. And he's a restaurateur, and we talk about his nephew a lot, and it's kind of fun. But I give Reynolds credit. Reynolds balked. Reynolds wanted a long-term commitment. But I give the Pirates credit because they went back to the table. This guy's one heck of a good player, as the people in Nashville know. I mean, he's a really good player. And what they have now is hope. And they haven't had hope there in a long time. That franchise is going to finish, 3rd place maybe in the NL Central this year. That's unheard of the last 10 years. So I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Reynolds because he did it right. He wasn't controversial. He just bet on himself. But I think what we're seeing, George, is we're seeing in social media, we're capturing some moments in the clubhouse in Pittsburgh. When Maggie came up yesterday and a minor leaguer for 13 years, you saw the hug at the top of the stairs. You saw the standing ovation from the fans last night when he came up for his first at bat. There's some going on there in PNC Park, and it's way good, and I'm thrilled for him.
So am I. By the way, I got to stop you for a second.
Yeah.
We have a massive story that has just broken out of the NFL that I certainly didn't see coming. Billy? Yap.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson has been extended by the Baltimore Ravens, and they're still working through the language with him. And I'm sure we'll get more details as the hours progress here. But Lamar Jackson will be the Ravens quarterback next year. I don't know if that's a coincidence heading right into the draft.
It does seem like the timing is a little weird.
Yeah.
Danny, you may not know who he is, but I will say this. The guy can fly.
You know what? It's funny. I met him about 2 years ago, and he was a terrific guy. So I root for him, even though I have absolutely no idea about his skills. But I think it's always great, George, when teams hold on to their guys. I just think that's a real indicator. The organization picked the right guy, and the player likes where he is.
So, Danny, we talked about a guy with Nashville ties a minute ago. I want to shift to another one. Mookie Betts, who suddenly is playing shortstop and showing people that, he's not just a 300 bowler. Danny, he's making this look easy, and that's ridiculous.
So, George, I'm going to, first of all, he's my 1A favorite player. I just love him. An exceptional guy, as the people in Nashville know. But, George, when he was a kid, and I mean a kid, his uncle, Terry Shumpert, played for me with the Dodgers and the White Sox. Terry was a big leaguer for like 8 or 9 years. Phenomenal character. And said to me, Dan, there's a guy someday, my nephew, that is going to be one heck of a good player. And Terry was a really good man. In fact, I think he played in the Southern League at some point. He played probably in the American Association in Nashville. So I always followed Mookie, and then I met him as a kid. I think he was an A-ball. Mookie Betts is one of the greatest players in the game, and he's an even better human being. The dude can dunk. He's a 300 bowler. He's an exceptional athlete. George, to go from second base to center field to right field to second base to shortstop is absurd. And most guys would not only not be able to do it, but would struggle offensively trying to make that move. His wife has a child. He's in the birthing room. He gets to the ballpark just before the game, is inserted in the game, and I believe he was inserted at shortstop. Yeah, that's ridiculous, George. That does not happen. This guy has a skill set that is phenomenal. For me, he's one of the faces of the game. I love this guy. I absolutely love what he's all about. I follow him so closely because I love when good people are great players. And this guy is that guy. And I mean, George, to go play short in the big leagues, only one half of the shortstops in the big leagues are domestic drafts in the first place. Most of them are from Latin countries or from Asia. That's just what happens. This guy walks in to the infield and moves right into shortstop on an elite franchise. My gosh, that's just amazing.
Danny, it's almost like saying an offensive lineman can go play wide receiver. Now, I realize that may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I do think I know enough baseball to know that you can't just snap your finger and say, okay, you will be not only major league quality, but way above major league quality. How in the world did he do this?
I don't know, George. It's a great point. A scout said to me when Betts was in the minor leagues, he said it was a great scouting move. He just said, I don't care where you put him. He's going to be an all-star and he's going to be the best player on the team. It's great scouting on behalf of the scout. And then the scout added, but his character and his makeup are even better than his talents. And George, when you believe in yourself and you're a heck of a good player, it's a lot easier to make a difficult transition. But George, and for all the listeners and the viewers, here's the thing. Shortstop is an instinctive athletic position. I look at that position much like I look at a point guard in basketball. I look at it like a quarterback in football. I look at it like a goaltender in hockey. You're a special breed. You're an elite athlete. You've got instincts, reactions, tenacity, decision-making that is in the stratosphere. But George, the hardest thing about the position is the ball comes to you more than anywhere else. And it comes to you from different angles. It comes to you, you're moving, as you know, George. You're on the move all the time, making plays. The instincts required to play shortstop are even more important than the athleticism. You got to be there. And for Betts to do, when he completed that 4-6-3 double play in his first game, George, that's the hardest play for a shortstop to make. He's got a runner bearing down on him. He's got to get to the bag and he's got to make a good throw. He made that play like he'd been playing there for a dozen years. For me, he's a joy to watch. I try to watch Mookie play as much as I can. And for the people in Nashville, he is exactly who you think he is. He's just an elite guy with great athletic skills.
Overton High School in Nashville. Danny, if I said to you, because I do think I know enough baseball to know that this is ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd that it could happen. How many major league outfielders do you believe could make this transition without real embarrassment?
Wow. I'd say 5 to 7 off the top of my head. Very few guys can come into the infield, George. George, most domestic drafts, half of them are shortstops in high school, and they get moved to another position. So they played a little bit out there, But the moment they get into the pro game, it's deemed there's no way you're going to play short in the big leagues. Let's move you off. Let's get you to a spot. The ones that stay there to AA, AAA, and eventually the big leagues, I mean, George, that's such a gift. So for a guy to come from the outfield in, there's a few guys who've done it, like in the World Series. I think Northrop did it in '68 in the World Series. A few other guys have done it, but it's almost impossible. Most guys move out, and there's all the stories about Yount moving from short to center. His shoulder went bad. But George, to come in and excel, and George, to not let their bat deteriorate because of the grind mentally. To me, I remember Adrian Beltre coming to me before a game in San Francisco. We had an injured shortstop. And he goes, Danny, I'll play short. And I said, Adrian, he goes, Danny, I can play short. So he said to me, don't worry about my bat. I'm going to be a mess at the plate anyway. It doesn't matter. And I realized what it does to guys when they change a spot. George, Mookie Betts, you wouldn't know watching him hit. You wouldn't know there's any pressure on him to play on the dirt. And he's playing on the dirt, George, with new rules. Think about that, too.
Oh, you're right. Hadn't thought of that. It's amazing. Okay, let me ask a couple of things before I let you go. Any new news from Field of Dreams in Iowa? For those who have never seen Danny before, Danny now runs the Field of Dreams complex that has hosted the last 2 years incredible major league games that have gotten worldwide attention. Anything new?
George, thanks for being a good PR guy. A couple things. I saw your ad at the top of the show where you were talking about baseball cards. We're going to have a baseball card show at the Field of Dreams Memorial Day weekend, and it's going to rock. I mean, we're going to have a really great group. We're going to have a big baseball tournament going on at the same time. So that's number one. And number two, we're planning a really big day, August 12th, where we're going to have a bunch of Hall of Famers on the property. We're also going to have a cornhole tournament that the public's invited to participate in. You can play against the best 40 cornhole players in the world. And on top of it, George, you can have a really good time and see a concert that night. So a lot of good stuff happening. Corn's in the ground. We're planted. And candidly, I'm looking forward to the summer when I can wear shorts and hang out and watch a whole bunch of baseball being played.
And you're not watching the NFL draft tonight?
George, I believe I am teaching tonight. And after that, I'm probably going to grab some pizza and it's just going to go whoosh. And it's nothing against football, George. I just don't follow it.
I got it. Thank you, as always, for the visit. Great stuff today.
You're welcome, Georgie. Great questions. Have a good one.
How good is Danny Evans? This guy is as wired to the baseball community as any person I've ever been around. It is such a joy for a baseball fan like me to get to talk to him. And I thank him for putting up with all the draft questions that we hit him with early on. Billy, before we go to the break, anything else on what's broken out of Baltimore?
It is a 5-year deal with Lamar Jackson. They haven't released any of the other details. Like I said, I'm sure they will here in the next hour or so. But it is a 5-year deal.
Okay, let me ask you this before we go to the break. I had come to the point I didn't think it was ever going to happen in Baltimore. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, just how long it was. I mean, it kind of got ridiculous how long it was going. Lamar posted a video on social media, really excited. I mean, he's glad he's still a Raven. I think all along he wanted to be a Raven, but he's got other stipulations. He doesn't have an agent, so I'm sure that made it last way longer than it should have lasted. And maybe he learns from this and maybe gets an agent eventually, or maybe this is the last contract he's ever signed.
Maybe this is the beginning of a bunch of players not getting agents.
Who knows?
You never know.
Maybe it's the other side of the coin.
Okay, Plaster bet of the day is in the on deck circle. Again tonight, an NBA play, an NHL play. Stay tuned.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Hockey in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd, the goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Experience Predators hockey all season long. Visit NashvillePredators.com/season tickets and join the Loyal Legion today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets, and we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to AlacoFineWoodFloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome back in. Final segment on draft day, Thursday, April 27th. George, are you going to be relieved that the draft will be over after? Well, not over, but the first night of it.
Yeah, a little bit. But let me ask you something. Okay, we've got. Let's just stall out for a minute. Plaster's bet of the day. For those who maybe are watching the show live and didn't hear it earlier, Lamar Jackson has agreed to a deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Billy, does that affect anybody's draft tonight? It certainly could affect Baltimore's.
Yeah, that's one. It definitely affects.
That's an obvious.
That's an obvious.
No longer got to draft a quarterback.
No, I think it affects, anybody who is interested in potentially working on a trade with Baltimore. That's out of the equation with Lamar. So
that could be 3 to 5 teams.
Yeah.
Maybe the Titans.
There
knows?
There were certainly teams that were interested in Lamar Jackson. So that I think this plays a pretty big role in the draft tonight. Now, I don't know, are teams sitting there, freaking out that Lamar Jackson just signed with Baltimore? No, but I mean, like you said, the board, there's probably some teams crossing off this scenario on their big board saying, okay, this isn't in our decision making. Let's make the next step.
Right. And so I don't know. It feels like this will open up something tonight that maybe was not going to happen.
Yeah, maybe it affects Arizona. Were they interested in Lamar at all? Now,
I've wondered for a while, did they ever propose a swap? We can handle Lamar. You take care of Kyler Murray. They're similar quarterbacks. You don't have to change your offense to do it.
Yeah. I think about Arizona. I think about Vegas potentially up there. Now, I mean, our team's now interested in drafting a quarterback now that Lamar Jackson, they can't trade for him. So, yeah, I think it affects it, especially in those first 10, 15 picks. Teams that had their eyes on Lamar, now they've got to maybe shift it to drafting a quarterback. So we'll see where it goes. George, we ready for bet of the day results?
Oh, I guess so. We stalled around as long as we could.
Memphis got the win last night. Of course, they stayed alive.
Way to go, Grizz.
But the Avalanche.
Oh, God.
What the heck happened there?
Look, if you can figure out the NHL, the postseason, the road teams are winning at almost an 80% clip. I don't get it.
It's crazy. It makes it more fun to watch, I think.
Oh, I mean, it's, and, about 60% of the games seem like they're going to overtime.
Yeah, I think that's a bigger discussion with why are the road teams having success? I know we talked about it a couple of days ago.
I think it's the number of points that it takes to win a contest. In basketball, it may take 130. In hockey, 3 may get it done. That's an advantage to an underdog.
And if you get so used to watching the NBA, NHL is totally different with, if you got a hot goaltender, he can take over a game. The NBA, there's not really that aspect to it, right? I mean, if you get a hot Jimmy Butler, but there's always multiple guys. Like a goaltender can really take over a game like a pitcher. So I think the drastic difference between the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs is what makes it so different. They're going on at the same time. You get kind of stuck watching the NBA.
And the NBA last night had some road teams get it done.
Sure did. George, where are you going tonight?
Okay, I'm going to surprise people by taking the Atlanta Hawks. And you're like, are you out of your mind? Well, I don't know. There's something going on.
There's something going on in Boston.
In the ATL.
Well, I think it's more with Boston. There's not a lot of people happy with Ime Udoka.
No, they gagged.
They blew it.
They gagged a big lead.
Yeah.
Should have won the game. But I give Atlanta a lot of credit. They're down 3-1. There's not a soul besides those 15 of them that got on that plane to go to Boston who thought they could win. And when they're down 15, it would have been easy to pack it in and just say, we're going to lose by 30, go home, get the golf club, summer starts. But they didn't do that.
No.
And I've got a feeling tonight that there will be a little more appreciation from that home crowd at Phillips Arena.
I agree.
which is one of the more dead crowds in the NBA. I don't know.
We haven't seen that from Atlanta.
First of all, I think the Hawks are going to cover. And secondly, I got a funny feeling they're going to force a Game 7. How about that?
Could you imagine saying that before this series?
Oh, God. No way. And then the other one, Toronto just right now appears to have Tampa Bay's number. I think Tampa Bay has, what's the word, crested. You know,
they've peaked.
They won, you know, Stanley Cups. A year ago, they lost in the finals. And this year, I think they're going down in round 1.
And they're an old group. You know, I mean, they rolled last year, but they still made a deep run. This year, it feels like they're running out of gas, and Toronto wants to beat them so badly. But for Toronto, you know, I think they'll be relieved after this series, just not having to deal with Tampa anymore. But I think Tampa's just gotten a little too old.
You want to get embarrassed?
Let's do it.
Who do you think the Titans draft with their first pick?
I think they stay at 11 and take Peter Skoronsky from Northwestern. He reminds me of Jack Conklin. I don't think the Titans should have ever gotten rid of Jack Conklin. He's playing really well now in Cleveland. I think isn't he in Cleveland? So yeah. I think they stay. I think a lot of the Stroud stuff is a smokescreen. Now, do they trade up for Stroud? Maybe, but my gut tells me they stay at 11 and they take an offensive lineman.
I don't see how they've got the draft capital to trade up. Now, watch them do it, and then I have to explain tomorrow why I said this.
Well, it could be one of either Henry, Tannehill, or Byard. I mean, I doubt if you're taking Stroud at 3, you're not going to trade Henry. If you're taking so I think it's either Tannehill or Byard. Tannehill might be involved, but what's his market? I
don't know.
That's the question.
I think it's the kid from Ohio State, the wide receiver.
Yep. I think it's either Skoronsky or Njigba for me.
For me, if it were my call, it's a quarterback. If a quarterback is out there, you can get offensive linemen later. You can get wide receivers later. You're not getting a quarterback that's any good much later.
If Hendon Hooker's available, are you taking Hooker?
Yes.
At 11?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
It's called New Stadium Marketing. Let's sell some tickets.
Let's get those Vols fans back in Nashville.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
See you tomorrow. Our show will originate tomorrow from First Horizon Park. The Sounds are home this week. The weather tomorrow will be better, we hope, we think. So let's see what happens. Billy?
Let's hope the weather's better than last time we tried to go over there.
Oh, gosh.
Well, we didn't try. We were over there.
No,
we were in a suite, though.
We were. Behave until then.
You too, George.
All of you enjoy draft night. We will see you on Friday.